Liara T'Soni was fake. She was not her mother.
Have you faced an Asari commando unit before? Few humans have.
She would never abuse power.
Get in, get Farron, get out, and kill anyone who tries to stop us.
And she definitely didn't need anyone.
And I'm still leaning on you for help.
That's what friends do, Liara.
Or did she need someone? Liara T'Soni's story is the most complicated character arc in Mass Effect, because her true arc isn't seen in major plot moments, but in the aftermath, hidden away in conversations that reveal why, regardless of whether you romance her, she falls in love with Shepard, which forges a bond that is unbreakable. Let's dive into Liara's hidden arc, starting from the very beginning. On the mining world of Therum that housed Prothean ruins, Liara T'Soni was completely trapped. Geth forces had been trying to capture her for who knows what reason, but she had thwarted them with the lucky activation of a Prothean security device. Unluckily though, she was now helplessly stuck. There was no way she could free herself. She needed the help of someone else. Shepard's first job as a Spectre was to stop Saren from finding the conduit and unleashing the Reapers on the galaxy, and one of the commander's few leads to do so was tied to Saren's partner in crime, Matriarch Benezia, which eventually results in the commander traveling to the mining planet of Therum and finding Benezia's daughter, Liara T'Soni.
Can you hear me out there? I'm trapped, I need help!
Your mother is working with Saren. Whose side are you on?
I may be Benezia's daughter, but I'm nothing like her. I have not spoken to her in years.
Liara's fierce denial here of not being like her mother is incredibly ironic, because she didn't know this yet, but she was unknowingly lying to herself. She was more like her mother than even she knew. And as for Shepard, if Saren had sent the Geth after Benezia's daughter despite the rocky relationship, it had to have something to do with the conduit. So the commander makes the decision to recruit Liara and fight off the forces hounding her, while Liara herself hides in a corner. Eventually, the group escapes Therum's mining facility, and Liara halts her archaeology work to join the fight against the Reapers. But she didn't know for certain if Shepard would welcome her help because of her mother's connection to Saren.
I have seen the way your crew looks at me. They do not trust me. But I am not like Benezia. I will do whatever I can to help you stop Saren. I promise.
Don't worry, Liara. I trust you. I know you won't let me down.
It means a lot to hear you say that, Commander. Thank you.
And in between missions on the hunt for Saren, Shepard's check-ins with her causes Liara to slowly trust the commander too. Through multiple Paragon choices, which this entire breakdown will primarily choose, the commander learns about Asari culture and what made Liara into the person she is today. And what stood out the most to Shepard was how her life centered around her mother, Benezia. Liara was born on Thessia and raised by her mother alone. She didn't know much about her father, except that Benezia's partner was a fellow Asari, which in Asari culture was one of the worst partners to choose. Asaris could bond with any race in the galaxy, melding with their consciousness in order to randomize the traits they pass to offspring. However, when an Asari bonds with another Asari, this limits the diversity of the Asari as a whole, and so is seen as undesirable. And Liara was a child of this type of union, labeled from a young age with the slur pureblood. Because of this, while growing up, she was used to a life of discrimination by other Asari, even though they never explicitly did so to her face. Her early life was filled with rejection by her own race, and in her mind, her father too. Because of this, she opted for a life of quiet solitude. And because of her lack of time around people, she struggled with understanding the emotions of others, and most especially, the emotions and expectations of her mother. As a powerful matriarch and spiritual leader for the Asari, Benezia commanded plenty of followers. She often spoke of the Asari having more power over galactic events, and was known to be much more forward-thinking than most other Asari. Because of this, she also assumed that Liara would follow in her footsteps and become a political leader for their people, which was Liara's literal worst nightmare. She had lived a life of rejection as a pureblood and resented the high expectations put on her as a matriarch's daughter. Matriarchs were supposed to lead their followers into the future, seeking the truth of what is yet to come. And yet Liara was drawn to the complete opposite. She chose to pursue archaeology and the secrets of the past. From a young age, Liara was fascinated by the Protheans, but even now she questioned whether she chose her career despite Benezia's expectations of her. Was her life as an archaeologist the result of running away from her mother's expectations? Even at age 106, Liara didn't quite know her own motivations, but she was adamant to Shepard about one thing. She was not like her mother. She was pursuing the life she wanted, and that life included her newfound fascination with Shepard.
You were marked by the beacon on Eden Prime. You were touched by working Prothean technology.
Sounds like you want to dissect me in a lab somewhere.
What? No, I did not mean to insinuate. I never meant to offend you, Shepard. I only meant that you would be an interesting specimen for an in-depth study. No, that's even worse.
As Shepard laughed Liara's awkward comments off, it was clear how out of depth Liara was at conversation. She wasn't used to having someone check up on her, or even chat with her for an extended period of time. But now, with Shepard, Liara was opening up more, and telling the commander things she hadn't told others before. The first inklings of friendship and infatuation were blossoming. But unfortunately, before Liara could process this new relationship, it soon became time for the Normandy crew to confront her mother. Shepard and Liara traveled to the icy world of Noveria, coming face to face with matriarch Benezia.
What have you told her about me, Liara?
What could I say, Mother? That you're insane? Evil? Should I explain how to kill you? What could I say?
Have you faced an Asari commando unit before? Few humans have.
And with that verbal jab, the fight against Benezia's commandos began. Fighting desperately, the squad took down Asari after Asari, while Benezia's power slowly weakened. And finally, after the last Geth she commanded was slain, Benezia collapsed, revealing that this whole time, she was under Saren's control. Before Saren can further control her through Sovereign, Benezia hands Shepard a disc that would make finding the conduit much smoother. But that would be the last thing the matriarch did willingly. As Benezia begins to fall further into indoctrination, Liara calls out to her mother in distress.
Mother, don't leave. Fight him.
You've always made me proud, Liara.
Mother.
Good night, little wing. I will see you again with the dawn.
As matriarch Benezia passed beyond the veil, the squad returned to the Normandy, one step closer to stopping the Turian who had led to her demise. And when Shepard checks up on Liara after her mother's death, she wants nothing to do with it.
If you are here to talk about Benezia's death, you need not bother. She brought it upon herself.
Don't pretend it doesn't bother you. She was your mother.
She was. But she was not.
The best of your mother lives on in you. Her determination, her intelligence, her strength.
That is kind of you to say. I appreciate your concern, but I am fine. Benezia chose her path, just as I have chosen mine. I am with you until the end, Shepard.
Even after actively supporting her mother's death, Liara believes herself unaffected. Once again, she didn't know it, but she was repressing her true feelings. She did, however, say that she would be with Shepard until the end. And after the ones who controlled Benezia for so long, Saren and Sovereign, were finally defeated, there was Liara, by Shepard's side, right up until the Reapers decided to end the commander. A few weeks after Saren's death, the Normandy was suddenly attacked, dooming it to destruction. And in the chaos, Commander Shepard was lost, falling to the icy depths of Falkera. Liara managed to escape in an SOS pod, and when we see her next, she's almost a completely different person. Ruthless, calculating, and no hint of the good-natured archaeologist in sight. So, what happened to her? Why was her old personality completely erased? Based on this breakdown, the truth of her change is hidden in the shadows, in the deepest and darkest recesses that make up Liara's hidden arc. After Shepard's death, Liara had nothing. Everyone else on the Normandy had lives to return to, Tali to the Quarian fleet to complete her pilgrimage, Garrus to reapply for Spectre candidacy, Rex to the Krogan on Tuchanka, and Kaidan or Ashley to the Alliance. But Liara had lost everything that made her who she was. In her brief time aboard, she had lost her mother, the one person who had influenced her life the most. She'd lost her career because the incoming Reaper threat was the reason her beloved Protheans had gone extinct in the first place. And Liara had lost a true friend in Shepard, the one person who had wanted to know her for who she was. Not Benezia's daughter, or a pureblood, or even a renowned archaeologist. Shepard saw her as simply Liara, a friend that had had her back until the end. And now that Shepard was gone, Liara had nothing. A part of Liara died when Shepard did, and we'll never know the full extent of that loss. But we do know that after this, she made a decision. Liara was done chasing the past. She was ready to step into the world of the here and now. And when she heard a rumor of Commander Shepard's body being held on Omega, she finally had a purpose. She had to see her friend one last time, which brought her to the power-hungry hub of Omega. After landing, Liara found her contact, a Drell named Farron, who had information about Shepard, but not the news Liara wanted to hear. The commander was dead, But even so, Liara was determined to see Shepard's body for herself. And after a small scuffle with the Blue Suns, she and Farron run into Miranda Lawson, a Cerberus operative working towards the same goal. Except Miranda's goal went beyond just finding Shepard. She wanted to bring Shepard back from the dead. Upon hearing this, Liara was surprised and intrigued to say the least. So she went along with Miranda, which led to her meeting the elusive man and the conversation that would alter her life forever. The head of Cerberus told Liara that the one who had Shepard's body was the Shadow Broker, and the infamous information broker who had the most power and contacts in the entire galaxy was going to sell Shepard's body to the collectors. If Liara recovered Shepard's body from the broker and gave it to Cerberus, then the commander would avoid the collector's plans and might even be brought back to life. The elusive man knew how close Liara was with Shepard, and she herself was looking for a chance at redemption. The commander had trusted her when no one else in her life did. If there was even a chance to save them, Liara would seize it. So for Shepard's sake, Liara takes on the mission, with the small hope that her friend might live again once more. After Shepard's body left Omega, Liara and her new companion Farron followed in hot pursuit to the Shadow Broker's base of Alingon, and lying in wait for them was the broker themselves. In holographic form, the Shadow Broker was approached by Liara, who accused them of stealing her friend's remains. Farron, meanwhile, urged her to stall while he retrieved evidence on what the collectors wanted with Shepard. But as Liara stalled, the Shadow Broker began to belittle Shepard, reducing them to only a corpse worth selling. Liara's frustration and anger rose with every passing moment. Luckily though, not long after, Farron retrieved the data he needed, telling her to finally let her fury loose. In an instant, Liara's biotics were unleashed, upheaving entire parts of the room and annihilating the holographic device that gave the broker form. In this moment, Liara learned how powerful anger was. And more than that, she liked how her power had felt. Saying out loud that her powerful rage felt good was an admission that she was holding back for a long time. And after Farron gave her the data on the collectors, she was ready to turn her power towards the ones keeping Shepard's body captive. Unloading on the Shadow Broker mercs, Liara seized a chance to take off in the ship holding the commander's body. But right before she could leave, her ally Farron became captured at the last moment. Bravely though, Farron told Liara to leave without him to save Shepard. And so Liara left one friend behind with the hope of saving another. And in the ensuing days, she handed Shepard over to Cerberus, where the commander's long recovery process would begin. Liara had done her duty and redeemed herself by not allowing Shepard to be taken in by the collectors. And on this past mission, she had learned more about herself than she ever knew. She didn't just want power, she enjoyed it, thrived in it, and she was willing to do whatever it took to get it. The old Liara was fake. This new version of her was the real her, the version that didn't need anyone to save her. Instead, she was going to do the saving, and in the process, take down someone who had wronged her and hers. Liara was going to save Farron and remove the Shadow Broker. And to do that, she needed more power, more information, and more contacts than ever. She decided to find all three in the Asari-controlled world of Ilium. After the Lazarus Project, Shepard was back from the dead and ready for round 2 with the Collectors. And in their bid to find more allies for the fight, the commander visited Ilium, where their former ally and friend Liara was waiting. But instead of a happy reunion, their first meeting was beyond concerning.
Have you faced an Asari commando unit before? Few humans have. I'll make it simple. Either you pay me, or I flay you alive. With my mind.
Shepard! Nixeris, hold my calls.
Shepard.
My sources said you were alive, but I never believed. It's very good to see you.
As Shepard caught up on Liara's new career as an information broker, it was clear that she was hung up on something to do with the Shadow Broker. Liara explained that her friend Farron had been taken, but the way she described the broker with such rage was concerning to say the least. Shepard knew this type of sustained anger wasn't healthy, so they gave their friend a cautious warning.
Be careful out there, Liara. Don't turn into the thing you're hunting.
Don't worry, Shepard. I'm not my mother. Everything I'm doing of my own free will. For better or for worse.
And clearly, Liara's 2 years away from Shepard had made her emotional repression very much worse. She was repeating the very phrases that her mother had said while fooling herself that she wasn't like Benezia. And the most worrying part was that her rage was eroding her old compassionate self until she was unrecognizable. If Liara didn't deal with the broker soon, her anger might entirely consume her. But luckily, Shepard had found a clue to the broker's whereabouts. After 2 long years, Shepard handed Liara the data she needed to track down the Shadow Broker. The commander stood ready to help their friend achieve her goal for revenge, for better or for worse. And the mission to take down the Shadow Broker couldn't have started any worse. When Shepard arrived at Liara's apartment, there were bullet holes everywhere. But Liara herself was nowhere to be found. The Asari Spectre in charge, Vasir, told Shepard that Liara escaped from an assassination attempt, which the commander knew was likely ordered by the Shadow Broker. The Spectre needed to find Liara too, so she let the commander join the investigation to uncover where she fled to. And as Shepard begins to search for clues, they discover more about Liara that her friend had never shared. Liara had kept Shepard's old armor after handing their body to Cerberus, showing a sentimentality that hinted at something beyond friendship. And on her nightstand table, the last thing she'd see before resting for the night was a picture of the Normandy SR-1, the place where her life was turned upside down and where she had begun to start budding friendships for the first time. Despite her 108-year lifespan, Liara's best memories were on the Normandy and with Shepard. And it's in the Normandy's picture frame that Liara hid a clue that only Shepard could unlock, leading both the commander and Vasir to the Drakon Trade Center, where somehow things get even worse. Upon arrival, the center's top 3 floors explode in a shower of glass, showing just how badly the broker wanted Liara dead. After Shepard fought to the top floor, they met up with Vasir and Liara, who was waiting in the shadows. Liara revealed that it was Vasir who had almost sniped her in her apartment, which turned Shepard and crew against the other Asari in an instant. It turned out that the Spectre was working for the Shadow Broker to eliminate Liara in exchange for information that would keep Citadel space safe. And one of Vasir's jobs was to make sure that the data disk that contained the Shadow Broker's location never got into Liara's hands, which leads to the Spectre deciding to make a quick exit with the disk in hand, but not without hurling one final slur at Liara on the way out.
I'm guessing she's still got the disc on her.
Good guess. Not that you'll ever see what's on it. You pure-blood bitch!
Shepard took major exception to the Asari slur, especially after what they learned about Liara's past. So the commander hurled themselves at the fellow Spectre, which resulted in a massive fall, while Vasir simply floated to the ground. And as Liara followed Vasir in hot pursuit, she didn't once glance back to see if Shepard was okay. After Shepard recovered themselves, they joined Liara in pursuing Vasir out of the trade center, but also quipped that they were fine, by the way, a remark clearly aimed at Liara's lack of care for their safety. Shepard had seen Liara deteriorate for long enough. The commander's friend desperately needed a wake-up call, which was bound to happen sooner or later. But first, Vasir. After tracking the injured Spectre to a nearby building, the fight for the Shadow Broker's location began. As biotic waves and bullets flew, Shepard and Liara worked together to bring Vasir down, just like old times. But after the fight was finished, the colder Liara returned, ignoring the dying Spectre for what she had been searching for the past 2 years. The Shadow Broker's location was finally in her grasp. Shepard stayed behind to hear Vasir's final words, knowing that Liara's revenge saga had gone on long enough. It was time for a confrontation that was a long time coming.
We can be at the Shadow Broker's base in a few hours. He'll know about Vasir before long. If he decides to kill
We'll get Baron out of there alive, Liara. I promise.
I know. You're here to help. Just like always.
That's not a good thing?
When we first met on Therum, you saved me from the Geth. You fought a Krogan battlemaster while I cowered. Now you're doing it again. And I'm still leaning on you for help.
That's what friends do, Liara.
Liara's refusal to acknowledge Shepard's affirmation of friendship shows just how far she had gone. The old Liara valued Shepard's friendship and trust, but the new Liara believed friendship was a weakness. She viewed her grief at losing Shepard as something that made her helpless, and so instead embraced the galvanizing feeling of rage at the loss of her friend. But that same friend saw things differently and wasn't done chewing her out.
When I hit the ground back at the trade center, you went after Vasir without a backward look.
A little fall wasn't going to kill you. I had to stay on Vasir. I had to stay rational, make the call. But from here on out, things will be simple. Get in, get Farron, get out. And kill anyone who tries to stop us.
Liara was turning into her own worst nightmare. Her pursuit of the Shadow Broker had destroyed any compassion she previously had, and she was slowly becoming her mother, despite all her efforts to do the exact opposite. Shepard knew her revenge scheme wasn't sustainable, but they decide to back Liara anyway, because that's what friends do. As the pair head to Hagelas, Liara readied herself to confront the Shadow Broker and to face her destiny. Upon reaching the Shadow Broker's base, Shepard and Liara fought their way inside and found where Farron was being held. Badly wounded from being tortured, Farron revealed where the Broker was holed up, and Liara promised they'll return to free him once he was dealt with. And so finally, after 2 long years of searching, Liara came face to face with the Shadow Broker, a gigantic Yogg with the strength of a Krogan and the smarts of a Solarian. And Liara wanted him dead. As the Broker rose to his full height, the fight 2 years in the making began. Bullets and biotic powers flew across the room, with both sides fighting desperately. As the fight dragged on, it was clear that the Yogg had the upper hand with brute strength, but Liara had an idea, and it was an idea that couldn't be done alone. It needed the help of a friend. As Liara got into position, Shepard ran full tilt toward the Yogg, dodging his shield, which left him wide open for Liara's surprise attack. As she launched a biotic burst into the massive energy source crackling above, the Shadow Broker was engulfed in it. As it enveloped him, his gigantic body exploded in a burst of light, knocking Shepard to the ground. And with the Shadow Broker finally defeated, Liara pointedly made the choice to help her friend up from where they'd fallen. Because that's what friends do. In this moment, Liara internalized a truth born from Shepard's teamwork. Friendship and bonds with others was stronger than the power of vengeance, and her revelations continued as she approached the Broker's console. Multiple Broker agents began asking what their orders were as Liara looked on, and while more and more agents began questioning what the Broker's instructions were, Liara lowered her head. She went into a contemplative state, likely realizing that everything in her life had led to this one moment. She had been running from her past, and especially her mother's expectations of her. She liked having power, but was never going to be the person the matriarchs wanted her to be. She enjoyed her own company, but had the skills to lead a group of people from the shadows. She was not her mother, but she was her mother's daughter. As Liara raised her head, she made the decision that was always destined to be.
This is the Shadow Broker. The situation is under control. We experienced a power fluctuation while upgrading hardware.
However, we are now back online.
I want a status report on all operations within the next solar day.
Shadow Broker, out.
And with that, Liara became the new Shadow Broker. After years of festering revenge in her heart, she had finally learned to embrace the power she was running away from for so long. And the key difference was that this power wasn't just for the sake of it. Liara's new power was deeply tied to friendship.
With the Shadow Broker's information network, I can give you... It's over. It's finally... For 2 years.
As Shepard hugged their emotional friend, Liara's old self was starting to appear again. She had spent 2 years mourning Shepard and Farron, but finally had them both back. Her emotional catharsis began by admitting what she was holding back for so long. Her revenge against the Shadow Broker was an excuse to push away the grief at losing 2 of her friends. But finally, she had them both by her side again. And for her truest friend, she was willing to share all of her newfound power.
No safeguards or user restrictions, and it's all ours. Is it wrong that part of me wants this? With the Shadow Broker's network, I can help you. Maybe I can turn this operation into something better.
After seeing Shepard's steadfast friendship despite her descent into darkness, Liara was determined to use her power for good, to be better than the person she had been turning into, and to use her power for friendship. Her quiet words to Shepard as they walk away are, "Thank you, Shepard, for everything." A thanks that went beyond just their help on this mission, because the commander's friendship was helping her become who she was always meant to be. Or so she thought. There was no way Liara could know what awaited her in the Reaper War to come, especially the revelations that would shake everything she was just starting to be. Liara's true self was still up in the air, but was ready to shine through in the trilogy's final act. The Reapers had begun their assault on Earth, and Liara knew there was only one way to stop them. After recovering the Crucible's plans in a Prothean archive on Mars, she rejoined Shepard aboard the Normandy, determined to finish off the Reapers once and for all. As the war dragged on, Liara put all the Broker Network's resources towards aiding the war effort and the creation of the Crucible. And throughout it all, she began to show her empathy once again. In the months since becoming the Broker, Liara's compassion had returned, showing how she took Shepard's words to heart about not becoming the thing she had hunted for so long. Fragments of her past self were peeking through, and as the war went on, another fragment of Liara's past returned, but this time in the form of the last Prothean in the galaxy. Liara had always believed the Protheans to be wondrous keepers of wisdom and enlightenment, and was initially overjoyed to have Javik on board. However, the reality of Prothean culture was much more jarring. The brutal, imperialistic Prothean Empire had ruled with an iron fist instead of wisdom, causing Liara to question everything she had previously thought. How had her views of the Prothean people been so wrong? Were these really the people she had dedicated her life to studying? This Prothean from the past was threatening to unravel everything she had built her archaeology career on. And to make matters worse, a person she had long discarded from her childhood life was beginning to threaten her current life. And the one forcing that threat on her was Shepard. Before the Reaper War began, the commander had run into a matriarch named Athena, but didn't yet know that she was secretly keeping tabs on Liara. After running into her during the war though, Shepard put 2 and 2 together, realizing that it was matriarch Athena who was watching Liara all this time. She was Liara's father, and the commander was determined for Liara to meet her. Liara, though, had other plans. She had already known about Athena being her father, and stubbornly said that this was hardly the time for family reunions. Shepard, however, knew she needed to do this. So reluctantly, Liara met the father she had perceived as abandoning her in childhood. And in the process, she learned of the complicated past her 2 parents shared. Both Benezia and Athena believed the Asari to be stuck in the past, but it felt differently on how their people should have been looking to the future. Benezia wanted interspecies alliances, and Athena wanted the Asari to go it alone in isolation. An ironic distinction that Liara herself had struggled with during her dark phase. The most important revelation for Liara wasn't that though. It was instead something off the cuff that struck Liara to her core.
I knew you'd be special, kid. Any daughter of hers. I told her, you're treating her like a baby bird, Nezzy. She's gonna raise one hell of a storm with those little wings.
Little Wing?
You okay?
Yes. Thanks.
Her mother's moniker of Little Wing had come from her father, Athena. So much of who she was and who she perceived herself to be was because of the matriarch who had left her. Liara wasn't just like her mother. She was slowly learning that she had parts of her father too. Her past wasn't something she should be running from. She was learning to embrace it, and she began to share more of her past with her best friend, Shepard.
I love this part of the Presidium. It reminds me of where I grew up.
Where's that?
Armali, back on Thessia. My mother and I lived beside a park. I spent hours there.
Doing what?
Reading, exploring, getting in trouble digging for ruins in the grass. Oh, the lecture my mother gave me. But she did buy me my first history book the next day. I miss her, Shepard.
With her trusted friend, Liara finally confronted the grief she'd held onto in silence for so many years. She loved her mother, and always would, and her affection towards Benezia continued.
What was she like?
She was confident and kind. She loved to wear yellow. I thought she was the most beautiful woman in the world.
You'll be okay, Liara.
Maybe you're right. Thank you, Shepard. I feel better. I wish we could spend more time together like this. Just friends.
But unfortunately, the pair of friends couldn't wax poetic about the past forever, because in the here and now, Liara's homeworld of Thessia was burning. When Shepard and Liara reached Thessia, all hope for its survival is nearly lost. The Reaper's ongoing invasion was decimating the most powerful race in the galaxy like they were nothing. And to make matters worse, in the Thessian temple they were searching for, Liara learned something shocking that rocked her world. During the Asari's early history, the Protheans had interfered with their development, and the Asari themselves had uncovered a Prothean beacon with vast amounts of knowledge, but chose to keep it hidden. As these bombshell revelations sunk in, Shepard and Liara failed their mission, dooming Thessia to fall to the Reapers. The homeworld Liara had just finished telling Shepard of was finished. In the depth of Liara's despair, she turned to the familiar emotion that had haunted her after Shepard's death. Pure rage, which she turned on the Prothean who was supposed to have all the answers.
You wanted to know more about your history, Asari. Now you do.
I have a name. It's Liara T'Soni, and
Hey! Settle down.
my home was just destroyed. And all he can do is gloat. You're a Prothean. You were supposed to have all the answers. How could you not stop this from happening?
We believed you would. Long ago, we saw the potential in your people. Even then, it was obvious. The wisdom, the patience. You were the best hope for this cycle. Your world may have fallen, but as long as even one Asari is left standing, the fight isn't over. Despair is the enemy's greatest weapon. Do not let them wield it. Liara T'Soni.
Javik's acknowledgement of her people's strength made Liara's rage fade away. But that didn't change the fact that Liara's home was no more. As Shepard went to check on Liara just like old times, her grief was overwhelming because she blamed herself for Thessia's fall.
I told those people on Thessia we'd save them. How many Asari died because I demanded their help?
None.
Shepard, that isn't true.
You've been warning your people for 4 years, Liara. There's not a damn thing you should feel guilty about. We lost Thessia, but we haven't lost the Asari yet.
Helping the refugees. That's something I can do. It's something I owe them.
I knew you'd think of something.
I still need some time, Shepard. But thank you.
For so long, Liara had run from her mother's expectations at being a leader for her people. She was never going to be the voice for the Asari, like how Tali and Rex were to their own races. But thanks to Shepard, she finally found her way to lead. After living a life of rejection by her fellow Asari, Liara began to save her race from afar, without needing any acknowledgement or thanks. From the shadows, the Asari would rise again, because there was still one Asari left standing willing to fight for them. Her mother's little wing would protect the Asari's future, and beyond that, protect the hope born from the Reaper War, which leads to Liara putting together a project that only she could, using everything that makes her who she is. During one of the war's last quiet moments, Liara approached Shepard with a time capsule, built with her exceptional archaeological background. In it, she had included information on the various species in their cycle, and plans for the Crucible in case they lost the war. But most importantly, there was one entry she hadn't yet completed.
Which one?
Your own. I'd be honored to have your input. How would you like history to remember you?
You know me well enough to fill in the blanks, Liara.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I'd like it to be your call.
And so, Liara began to recount everything she knew about Shepard, where the commander was born, and how they had fought in the war. And she ended the entry with this.
She was a soldier and a leader, one who made peace where she could. And it was a privilege to know her.
With that final admission, Liara finished writing Shepard's history in the stars, and shared in her best friend's company on board one last time before the inevitable battle to come. Liara's homeworld had fallen, but there was still time to save Shepard's. As the Normandy flew towards humanity's homeworld, the war's final chapter neared its close. During everything the commander and Asari had gone through, the battle for Earth was beyond brutal. Soldiers were falling in the thousands, and the Reapers were closing in with every passing hour. Shepard knew this was it, just as Liara did. This was the last free moment she would get with her commander. So in their last moments together, she decided to give Shepard one final gift.
I do have one thing for you, Shepard. A gift. It'll only take a moment, if you want it. Do you remember when I first joined my consciousness to yours? I can show you some of my own memories. Asari exchange them sometimes, with their friends, or the people they respect. It can also be a way to say farewell.
I'd be honored.
Close your eyes.
Liara's final gift to Shepard is her memories. The very life that she had run from for so long was the same life she was proudly sharing with her friend today. And the one who helped her live a life worth sharing was the commander by her side in the here and now. Before the fierce fight that was to come, Liara held on to Shepard in an embrace that spoke to more than just friendship. Liara's love for Shepard shines through as her memories begin. Her first moments in the world as Benezia held her. Her joy at digging for ruins in the grass as her mother laughingly looked on. Her shame as other Asari judged her. Her defiance at running away from Benezia's expectations. So trapped, living a life she wasn't meant to live. And then Shepard, showing her what friendship felt like, standing by her as she lost the mother she loved so very deeply, and then dying themselves, taking a part of Liara with them, her new, angrier self, eager for violence and revenge, and then Shepard again, showing her the way back towards the light, and through it all, accepting every part of her. Her determination, intelligence, and strength, her confidence and kindness, her darkness, and her light. Without Shepard, Liara T'Soni's arc wouldn't exist. And because of Shepard, she had begun to live a life worth living, which is why, as her memories fade, Liara's final words to Shepard are,
Thank you for everything.
As the final chapter of the Reaper War closed, Liara lost Shepard a second time. But maybe someday, she'll see the commander again, and she'll have new memories to share with the friend who she grew to love so deeply that not even death itself could erase their bond. Because the love Liara has for Shepard is unbreakable. If this tease for the next Mass Effect is showing Liara recovering Shepard, then we are all in for a treat for the next part of Liara's arc. Watch this video next to see why Earth being doomed in the next Mass Effect might reunite Liara and Shepard for one more story. See you there!